Education has always been the focal point, and where we go, we thought we view education as actually a gauge, as an opportunity to measure a nation's economy in a way. So we cannot deny the fact that each of us has this capability and has this right to be educated. It is instated, or it is stipulated in the Bill of Rights, that every individual has the right to, whether public or private institution. But in today's society, we cannot deny the fact that the educational system, the learners, is actually some sort of degrading. So even before, we thought of, as a child, no, as an infant, we don't have any idea on what path to go, where to go, and how to do it. In terms of education, we are actually influenced in a way, and we are nurtured by the society that we lived in. Education is an opportunity for us, and it's actually a guide for us, but it is a way for us, it is an avenue for us to be financially stable, because you cannot deny the fact that most of us are actually in financial constraints. I may be biased on how I perceive education, so we have different views on how education goes as to how the past deal with the educational system that we have. So I thought, as a child, I thought of education as a competition, a way of competition, because basically before we thought of being on top of the class. So basically my idea of it is who is a competition and who's the best, better, mediocre, and sometimes there are those who are audience. So the upbringing that we have, the environment that we lived in, the society that we interact, actually molds our principles and our ideas about what educational system is and how educational system work. But basically, so when we thought of it, education is not just about gaining knowledge. Being educated is not. Every one of us aim to be educated, not just simply educated, but actually to be well educated. But does that mean that gaining certificates, gaining titles, gaining a lot of medals, and a lot more justifies or equates to being literate or educated? Does all the medals and certificate and the recognition equates to that? I have this story of mine. So actually, I have this friend of mine whose child is really very smart. The child can do math at an early stage. He can read phonics, and he's actually very well versed in phonics and even to spelling at an early stage. So it is actually plausible, since the child is really very intelligent at that stage. For me. So what really struck me the most is that although the child is really high in IQ, but what struck me the most is that the child is, I don't know what the specific term would be, but he is actually very not bad in social skills or dealing and interacting with others. What's worse is that he's actually not good in manners. So if we try to introspect that situation, we can say that children are actually empty canvases. So what they saw within the society and how we parents mold them, they actually imitate and follow it. So ika nga, sa mata ng bata, lahat ng ginagawa ng mga matatanda ay tama. And let us not forget that the basic foundation of our society is our family, the family that we lived in. So we are the very first that educate our children. So basically, what does this mean then? So is it just the teacher who will thought and who will mold our children? Education does not just happen within the four walls of the classroom. It actually began even before. We enrolled our children into the formal institution, or the formal education, such as the primary, elementary, and the secondary education. So we are responsible for how we taught our children, for how we mold our children, and for how we shape our children. So basically, what does this mean then? So there should be an interaction between and a collaboration within the community, the parents, and the educational system, which includes the teacher, for us to produce learners or responsible and independent students who look forward to producing and giving a wonderful future, not just for today's society, but for the future generation to come. The educational system that we have today is actually the combination of a lot of philosophies. So not just one, but it actually encompasses a lot more. So there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all. No, it's a combination of it all for it to be effective. So these philosophies actually exist. It exists even before we were born. So they shape our educational system, and these are necessary for us to mold and to improve the quality of education that we have today. So this behaviorism, this realism, this social constructivism is nothing if we thought of this as a philosophy that is just applicable to the classroom setup that we have. So education does not just happen within the four walls, it is an interaction within the school, the society, for the future generation and for the better future of our generation and for the coming generation. So one essential philosophy that is essential in nurturing the learners and the generation that we have today and for the betterment of the future that we will have tomorrow is what we call as Reconstructionism. So what is it then and how important is it in education? So Reconstructionism is also known as social Reconstructionism. So it is defined as a philosophy that actually emphasizes on nurturing or dealing with the social problems that exist within the society and for the future. So it deals with the problems such as the social problems that we have today, including racism, poverty, what else? Homelessness and violence. So these are actually social problems that even exist up to this time and even during the past. So these philosophies actually help us deal with the present time, and it actually molds us to provide and to have a better future. Reconstructionism is actually a tool for us to be directed towards the future. Ika nga, diba? Do not forget and let us always remember that the youth is the hope of our nation. Ika nga, ang mga kabataan ay ang pag-asa ng bayan. But how can we produce more responsible citizens, and how can we produce citizens that will be considered as the hope of our country when we do not integrate and Reconstructionism? That is why it is really essential to integrate and to incorporate a lot of these philosophies for us to produce responsible and quality learners and for the betterment of the future that we have for the nation. So we cannot deny the fact that if we notice one observable characteristic or the usual scenario that I observe within the most or a few students, they try to consider education as simply as a scapegoat sometimes. So the usual routine of the household chores that they have at home, usually they don't value education as much as they should. Another thing is that they think of education as just a necessity, or it's just somehow the so-called in compliance with what is expected of them in the society. Education is not just about gaining knowledge that we gain. This actually applies. It actually encompasses the practice and application of the knowledge that we gain in the school, not just in the formal education, but also in the non-formal education setup. So we try to apply and practice and be with and collaborate and incorporate with the society that we live in. It is about the use of education that we have to reconstruct the society, because all these philosophies does not just exist in the past. It builds the present that we have right now, and all of these philosophies that basically guide or the basic educational system that we have
is actually an aid for the betterment of the future